Hello everyone, welcome to CyberScoop TV. I'm your editor-in-chief, Greg Otto. We're coming to you from the floor of the 2019 RSA conference. I'm talking with Evan Blair, the Chief Business Officer and co-founder of ZeroFox. Evan, thanks for joining us today.
Absolutely, pleasure to be here.
So, social media has taken it on the chin security-wise over the past couple months. I want to talk to you about a story in particular that we had on CyberScoop and the threats around that. A security researcher reached out to us and found Instagram data just in a cloud that was unprotected, unguarded, and it wasn't anything that came from Facebook's proprietary systems, but it seemed that these accounts were scraped, and we don't know what they were scraped for. But if you're a social media company and you have all of this data that is out there, but you want to protect your users, how do you wrestle with something like that?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think they deal with that challenge all the time, right? Building more features, engaging more, getting more people to join the platform, and sharing more personal information, which makes the platform richer and really is kind of their fulfilled purpose. But then you have to deal with the security ramifications and think about how the customer's data is being published, right? I think if you look at Facebook, in particular, you mentioned Instagram, obviously owned by Facebook, they've done a really good job of creating robust privacy controls for the data that you publish. So you have a lot of control over where that data goes, when it's made public, when it's available to somebody that may be just passing by, and when it's tightly held into your network. You know, I think the bigger challenge that the social media companies have to wrestle with is folks creating profiles that are misrepresenting themselves as somebody they're not. Whether it's impersonating or creating a fraudulent representation of a business, a brand, a company, or it's impersonating an individual. Yourself, myself, political actors, right? Using the trust that people have built up over social media, thinking they're engaging with their friends, their family, their colleagues, and all of a sudden sharing data to someone that's not who they say they are. And I think that is a bigger challenge for the social media companies when they look at how to protect the users against the next level of threat. Because look, you watch the news, doesn't matter what news station you enjoy,
right.
Social media, fake news, fraudulent profiles, impersonations, it's kind of in the forefront of everybody's
So how have you seen these companies evolve on disinformation? Because obviously this has been a topic that has been going on since 2016 and even beyond that. So I'd love to hear your opinion on how you see Facebook and Twitter and some of these platforms evolving when it comes to getting disinformation off of their systems.
That's a tricky one, right? They're balancing the challenges of free speech and people sharing their views and their ideas versus kind of keeping it to things that are true and real. But then who's the arbiter of truth? And I think that's a challenge that they're wrestling with, right? Social media was born out of this free speech movement, and the free speech that was available on social media really helped people get a voice in restrictive environments around the world, right? Using Twitter and other means to share their ideas and even drive revolution. And so I do think there's a little bit of a challenge in the disinformation campaign, right? Who determines truth? And I'm not sure I have the answer. I know that they're working hard on that. But I think there's an easy first step when they're looking at trying to keep the profiles of people that are posting to be legitimate, right? Facebook has done a good job of making you scan your driver's license in certain situations to prove you are who you are, using a phone number and really providing a lot of personal details to verify that you are the person you say you are. But like everything, that can be circumvented. And there's big money in fraud on social media, and so there's big industry in the criminal underworld to circumvent their controls. So it's not an easy silver bullet. Obviously security is not a silver bullet thing. And it's just trying to keep the people that are posting and engaging and sharing to a level of real that is kind of measurable. Because truth and the content of what's my perspective and not isn't really, but I'll tell you there's an interesting one. So Pinterest.
Okay.
Pinterest has a policy against scientifically verifiable falsehoods. So
okay.
The anti-vaxxing movement,
okay.
They deem that the anti-vax content is scientifically proven false, and they do not allow the sharing of anything related to the anti-vax movement on the Pinterest platform. It's a different approach than we've seen from the other social media companies, and they're very open about it. They're public about it. They point people to their terms of use and say, this is our policy. And go to Pinterest, search for anti-vax, there's 0 results. So it's a different approach. I'm not sure it's the right one or the wrong one. That's not my job to make the decision. But it's interesting that they're trying different approaches to create a platform and an environment where people want to engage. And I think we're moving away from this idea of it's free speech to it's a platform that you're signing up to terms of service, and there are usage rights and regulations. And if there are verifiable ways to determine a falsehood, then I think Pinterest may be onto something.
So one more question, sort of shifting gears in some other news that has come out of the social media companies. Facebook is doing a lot with encryption, and they recently announced that you're going to be able to have encrypted conversations across all their platforms, whether it's from Messenger to WhatsApp, WhatsApp to Instagram. How do you balance making sure that that is secure from platform to platform and still making it usable for everybody that does rely on those platforms?
Oof. There's a whole encryption industry, and so that's a hard challenge to solve and a hard question to answer. But I do think that the move to encryption is a good one. Personal communication and privacy is becoming a hot button issue in the social media space, along with security and fake news and disinformation. Right, privacy. Facebook has come under fire a bit for moves that don't seem to be super private. Right, if you sign up for a two-factor authentication to Facebook and you use your mobile number, they don't guarantee that number won't ever be used for something else. And so that's a little bit of a challenge, right? And look, Facebook's a publicly traded company with revenue expectations and investors. And again, they're not. It's not the street corner on the cross street from Moscone where you can say whatever you want. Right. They're owned by somebody. Right. And so I think that's challenging. But encryption really helps us have a level of trust. And I think honestly, the move to encryption is a growing distrust in the government and the authorities, more so than the social networking companies. You'll see here security people running around with 5 different encrypted messaging apps, and that's all they use, disappearing messages and things like that. So I think people are just more focused on their privacy, and especially the younger generation. They want to be their data shared with them and only the people they share it with, and they don't want the prying eyes of other people. I think there's also questions about when the social media companies roll out these encrypted services, who holds the keys, right? Apple's notorious for saying they're the most privacy-centric technology company out there. Facebook, like you said, has come under fire for maybe not being that way. But again, these are private companies trying to build a business, and I think as long as they're upfront with how they're going to use the data or with where those keys for encryption lie, and what they're going to do with the government when they come asking for conversations, I think that's going to be transparency. Will win the day.
Great. Evan, really appreciate you joining us.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it.
My pleasure.
For all of our videos, check out our YouTube channel. And for more on the RSA Conference and all things cybersecurity, check out cyberscoop.com. I'm Greg Otto. Thanks for watching.